I'm Rabbi Tova Spitzer. For folks I don't know, I'm the rabbi of Congregation Dorshate Tzedek in West Newton. I'm also co-chair of the Boston/Massachusetts chapter of TRUA, the Rabbinic Call for Human Rights. And this program is being co-sponsored by Dorshate Tzedek and TRUA. And we're here tonight to learn and to be inspired and hopefully to take some action on the theme of incarceration, generally and specifically incarceration of women here in Massachusetts. And just to sort of, I'm going to locate us in the cycle of Torah reading, which is where I find myself as a rabbi. This past week, we just closed the book of Exodus. We just closed this sort of chapter that's very dramatic of the Israelites being freed from bondage, from slavery, and then building a mishkan, a beautiful structure where God's presence could dwell. And then this week we start Vayikra, which means and he called or and it called. And it begins the details of how to live in a holy way, how the priests were to, do their job in the sanctuary, but also how the Israelites were to become a holy nation. And I feel like tonight we're going to hear both. We're going to hear about efforts to construct something new and beautiful in place of some things that are really not beautiful. And also there's going to be a call to us if we are so moved to take action. So I'm just going to introduce our three speakers, and then we'll have a fourth speaker that I will tell you about. And I'm really, really excited to introduce Ms. Angie Jefferson, who was released from MCI Framingham last July after 31 years of incarceration. While in prison, Angie participated in a multitude of programs and held a number of jobs, including being a peer mentor, a participant and facilitator in restorative justice programs, a trainer in a therapy dog training program, an administrative assistant in the prison's education department, and working as a hairstylist. Persevering in completing many years of college coursework, Angie received her bachelor's degree in Boston University's College Behind Bars program last year. For the last 5 years of her studies in BU's program, Ms. Angie was mentored by a team of 6 Partakers volunteers from Congregation Dorshate Tzedek. And she continues to be involved with this group after her release, when she participated in Partakers' new PEP reentry program affiliated with Brandeis. While incarcerated, Ms. Angie was involved as a mother to her 2 sons and her daughter Shanita, who we're also going to hear from tonight, and as a grandmother to her grandchild. She's been living at New Beginnings since her release and is working on being a voice for the voiceless. So Angie's going to kick us off. Then we will hear from Angie's daughter Shanita, who is the Clemency Data Coordinator for the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, and a member of Families for Justice is Healing. As a directly affected person, Shanita's mission is to work closely with the same community that she comes from to support and advocate for those that desperately need help. Her personal experience of her mother's incarceration and father's murder helps her to understand the trauma and breakdown that happens not only to families, but to entire communities. Advocating in Boston with the organization Families for Justice is Healing helps her to work towards the goal of freeing all women and girls. She is also the proud mother of her amazing 7-year-old daughter, I'm not going to say it right, Chrisai Mia Jefferson Taylor. You'll correct me, Shanita. And she's also working at New Beginnings and Reentry Services. And last but far from least, we're going to hear from Sashi James, is the Director of Reimagining Communities at Families for Justice as Healing, and she's a leader in the National Council. She's the daughter of Andrea James, whom we have hosted at Dorshate Tzedek a few years ago, who founded both organizations after her experience, Andrea's experience, as an incarcerated woman. Sashi lives in Roxbury, a predominantly Black and Brown community, which is in the center of the most incarcerated corridor in the state, running from Nubian Square to Franklin Field. In addition to her ties to her community, Sashi draws on her experience as a daughter of formerly incarcerated parents in her efforts to reimagine public health and safety and to end incarceration of women and girls. So after Ms. Angie and Shanita and Sashi speak, we'll have a little time for Q&A, and then Michaela Kaplan, who's our amazing TRUA coordinator here in Boston, is going to share a bit about the current New Women's campaign and ways that we can get involved. But Ms. Angie, I'm going to ask you to open us up, talk a little bit about your experience and what you would like us to know about, the realities of incarceration of women here in Massachusetts.
Good evening, everyone. I was already introduced, so I don't have to introduce myself. I don't really know where to start, but my thing when I was incarcerated, I said I wasn't going to let the time do me. I was going to do my time. That's why I completed so many programs and did so many things on the inside of the prison. Even though at times, time and people were coming up against me to try to block me from doing the things that I needed to do, but I still persevered and I made it through everything. While being incarcerated, my biggest issues with MCI Framingham was medical and mental health. As far as medical goes, medical is, the medical staff that they have there, it's like they got them off of a scratchbook somewhere because they just do not care. So if I had an issue, I had several health issues when I came home. Thank God I was able to get them taken care of, because when I was behind the wall, putting in a sick slip, it took them like 2 weeks to see me. If it was that serious and I had to go out to the hospital, they took me to the Shattuck Hospital, where I was shackled and handcuffed all day long from 5 o'clock in the morning till sometimes 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, when transportation chose to come and pick me up from the hospital. This is just a process that all of us go through when we have to go out on a medical trip, as they call it. So you sit in this cold cell, you're handcuffed and you're shackled all day. You have to eat with your handcuffs on. They take one hand out for you to go to the bathroom, and then they cuff you again. So you're just sitting there handcuffed and shackled literally all day long. That breaks your spirit right there. But for me, I tried not, when I was behind the wall, I was one of the people used to say I was one of the fortunate ones, and I do feel like I was, with my faith in God, because I know that it was God that kept my family right by my side. My 3 kids, my grandchild, and some of my family members, they held me down. And a few of my friends held me down also. But with the love and support from them, I truly believe that that's how I made it through everything that I made it through. Every day wasn't a good day. I had bad days just like the next person. I had stressful days just like the next person, to the point where I was a bad picker. When I would get stressed out or my anxiety would get too high, I would just pick until I started bleeding. Once I started bleeding, I felt a little better about myself in the situation. I was self-harming myself because I couldn't self-harm anything or anyone else at the time. And I just didn't know what to do to get out of my own way. So in saying that, how I learned to get over that was through meditation and prayer. I started meditating. I always prayed, but I felt like once I started meditating and my meditation and my prayer came together as one, that's when I started feeling better about everything. And I stopped picking, because I knew that I was only affecting myself. I wasn't affecting anyone else. The way the security guards and the staff in there, the way they talk to some of the women, is just very disrespectful. They tell them about their bodies. They tell them about their sex life. If a woman has on a tight t-shirt, they'll comment on it. I mean, the list goes on and on. I've never seen anyone do any sexual acts or anything like that, but I know that I've heard them say derogatory things towards certain women. Me, I didn't tolerate anything like that. If you want respect, you have to give respect. Back to the medical thing. I have a few friends that are still behind the wall right now. One, she has on her left leg is amputated from her knee down. And then on her right leg, she has half of a foot. That was due to a blood clot that she had on her leg that she kept complaining about, telling them. And they kept telling her, it's nothing. They said, we'll put you on methadone or either Suboxone. They use that as pain management now. So now this woman who's been in jail 20-something years, that wasn't an addict when she first entered the prison, now she is an addict because she depends on that medication for her pain. I have another friend that has a colostomy bag. And the colostomy bag around her, I think you call it a sternum, around the outside of it where her bowels is supposed to be. Sometimes it gets so infected to the point where she can't even go out because she's ashamed that it's going to come outside of the bag. She put in slip after slip after slip. It takes for her to literally have to pass out, and they have to call a code, a 911 code, so the ambulance can come in inside the prison and take her to the hospital. And then once she goes to the hospital, she'll come back with a bag of stuff to help her with her incision. But once that's gone, she don't get the things that she needs. So she's back to square one. And then I have another friend in there who's confined to a wheelchair, just like Robin. This other lady, she's confined to a wheelchair for the rest of her life because of her back issues. Her back issues, her shoulder issues, and her leg issues. But they keep her in her wheelchair and they just give her methadone because it helps with the pain. They will not help you with the things that you need help with. I had so many medical issues with my shoulder, with my back, and I was getting headaches like just in the back of my head because I was top heavy and it was affecting my spine to the point where it was just shooting up to my head and it was causing me to have really bad headaches. They wanted to put me on medication. I refused it. I refused to get on anything that's going to make me not know and understand what's going on around my surroundings. So I chose to deal with the pain. I would take Motrin, I would take naproxen here and there and here, but that stuff messes with your stomach. So for many years, I suffered with a chipped bone in my foot. I suffered with my knee pain. I suffered with my back and my shoulder pain, my headaches. But at the same time, I pushed through. In my heart, I felt like there was an end. I'll get back to that later. Now I want to get back to mental health. Get to mental health. Mental health consists of a bunch of women, mainly, that are between the ages of 19, 20, and 21 that are doing internships at the prison. They haven't had much life experience other than going to college and graduating and mommy and daddy buying them a car and they still live at home and all this other stuff. So you sit in front of them and you say, if I was sitting in front of one of them right now, I would tell them that I was having a bad day, that, you know, I just didn't feel good about the day. I didn't know what I was going to do. Automatically, they will offer me medication. Automatically. And I would say to them, medication isn't what I need. I need someone to listen to. I need someone that's going to help me understand what it is I'm going through. If you can't help me with that, I don't want to talk to you anymore. So for a long time, I didn't talk to a therapist. I talked to my family, I talked to my God, and I did a lot of talking to myself, believe it or not, because I knew that these people wouldn't do what it takes to get me through. There's a woman in there right now, her name is Sheila Berry, and she has severe mental health issues. So what they do is they take all her property away from her and they lock her in APU. That's the unit where you go. It's a disciplinary unit. They keep her locked up there so that way they don't have to deal with her. She refuses to take medication, but she has serious mental health issues. So if she starts flipping out or something, they'll call the team on her. And the team consists of these guys that are 6 foot, 5 inches tall. They come with pepper spray. They come dressed in their gear and they just tackle her. They tackle her like she's on a friggin' football team or something. And they beat this woman like you wouldn't believe. She has severe mental health issues. She can't get the help that she needs inside of there. The women that are suffering with their medical issues, they can't get the help that they need as long as they're inside of there. They have $50 million to build a new friggin' prison. I don't swear, but I'm getting really mad right now. So excuse me if I do, no disrespect to no one. They have $50 million to build a new prison. For what? For what? So many women have been through so many different traumas in their life. They don't see their kids. They don't see their families. They don't even know who they are. They don't even know where to start to begin to work themselves up to be the women that they can be. Me, myself, once again, I was fortunate enough to have some of the tools to work myself back into the woman that I knew that I could be. And I'm so grateful and thankful that I did. I made a promise to my kids that I would be the best mother that I could be from where I was. I wasn't perfect, but at the same time, all 3 of my kids are still standing by my side right now, and my grandchild. So I must have did something right. But a lot of these women in there, if their kids are involved in DFC, I don't know how you say that, but if their kids are involved in the system, even that right there sucks. They'll go and they'll talk to one of the social workers up there, but the social worker 9 times out of 10 will just blow it off. Oh, we couldn't get in touch with them. No, they didn't get your letter. Oh, they got adopted. How are you going to tell someone that their child got adopted and they didn't even know? All these things are going on inside of there. And the superintendent, she's just sitting there like she doesn't know nothing. It's like you put her brain inside of a freaking bird and it'll just fly backwards. That's how dumb she is. That's how dumb she is. She has no respect. She has no class. She has no empathy. She has no sympathy for nothing and no one. That prison is the worst place in the world to be. Me, myself, if I had that money, what I would do, I would build some type of trauma-informed program. You know, get a building. There's so many places that they're building up right now. Buy a lot, build one of those buildings, have them live in little individual apartments, but at the same time, let them go out into society and live. But still, get a team together that's going to help them deal with their mental health issues first and foremost, their health issues, getting their children back, getting a job. Some of the women don't even know how to read and write. They don't know what it is to fill out an application. If you ask them what pronoun they are, they wouldn't even know that. There's so many things that needs to be done as far as the women behind the wall goes. But in order for it to get done, you know, there's a lot of talk going on. And I'm the type, I don't like a lot of talk. I like to see some action. That's why I said I want to be the voice for the voiceless. Because a lot of the women in there, they're so scared to speak up and fear that they're going to get in trouble, or in fear that someone's going to find out what their crime is or whatever the case may be. But it shouldn't be like that. Fear shouldn't be instilled in them to do what's right. Just like when the senators would come up to the prison to visit us, they would say, like some of the officers or the superintendent would send her secretary down and say, well, you know, you can't talk about what goes on in a child hall. You know, you can't talk about what goes on at medical. No, I'm talking about it. That's why they're coming up here. These are the things that they need to hear. And just like with them, I used to say to them, if you're not going to do anything about it, why am I wasting my time down here talking about it? I want to talk about things, and I want for people to get together and do something about the issues that's going on. There's power in numbers. And we as women, yes, I know that there's men on the call. God bless you guys too. But we as women, we are powerful. And if we all get together and put our minds together, there's so many different organizations out here. We all need to get together and work together. And then things will get done. That prison will be shut down. There will be no way, no friggin' way that they will build another prison. They have an outline for it and everything. Oh, we're gonna paint it blue. We're gonna paint it lavender, just so they can have mellow colors so they can feel calm. No, the shit doesn't work. Excuse my language. It doesn't work. When they moved us off of the compound down to the Smith building, when we came back up, the whole unit was powder blue. I'm like, what is going on in here? They said, oh, blue is calming. It's going to keep you calm. No, it's not. You can't just Mickey Mouse something and think everyone's going to smile about it. Everyone doesn't like Mickey Mouse. You can't do that. And especially to women, not taken away from the men, but so many of the women that are inside of MCI Framingham, I've talked to, I've sat down with, I've counseled. I see people out here today that used to be in there, and when they walk up to me, they cry. Angie, you just don't know how much you helped me while I was in there. You know, Stacy Borden, she's a big one that talks about it, how I helped her. From that one conversation that her and I had, walking around the prison That one conversation. I used to go outside every day and walk for 2 hours. And I seen her, and her and I had a conversation. And that makes me feel good to know that I can still, what's the word I'm looking for? It makes me feel good to know that I left a lasting impression on a lot of people when I left there, and people that are out here now with me. I still can't believe that I'm saying I'm not in Framingham anymore, because I really thought, sometimes I really thought that this is where I'm going to die. This is it for me. But now I'm sitting out here in front of you all, and I'm talking about what's going on inside of there. I still can't believe it.
And we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Can I invite Shanita to share? And then if you want to add anything,
Yes.
Ms. Angie, can we do that?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your passion, your anger, your insight, your humor, really all of it. Wow, really, really powerful. For folks who don't know, Ms. Angie mentioned $50 million. That's the proposal for the new prison, is $50 million and there's less than 200 women in the prison. So if you do the math, you can see how much money, $250,000 per woman, how much healing that could bring for sure. It's amazing. Shanita, will you share a little bit of your experience, as a daughter of someone incarcerated, and how that's connecting you to the work that you're doing now?
Absolutely. So thank you for allowing me to talk. Again, my internet, for some reason, is unstable. I literally just set it up today. So
you look good to us. So far, you're looking good. So
okay, cool. But what I'm gonna do is just mute my camera just in case. I got my little timer set for 10 minutes. So here we go. I'll start off just by saying that, like my mom just said, this is super unreal for us to even be doing this together, because I've done it so many times, and it was always free her, and I hope she comes home. But to look in the screen and see her is I don't know. I really can't explain it sometimes. So I'll just piggyback off of, first and foremost, the health concerns, because I know that a lot of the conversations that we had on the phone or in the visiting room, or, through the telephone with the video visits, it was about her health, I asked her, I said, Mom, if you come home, what's the one thing you want? And I'm thinking she's going to say, a vacation, or, a good sleep, or, I don't know. I was like, she's going to say something, but she told me, you know what? I just want a comprehensive, a full, complete doctor's appointment. And that right there, and I was like, a doctor's appointment? She was like, yes, I just want to go to a real hospital and have a full appointment. And so it kind of broke my heart, because I'm like, wow, that's the one thing that she wants and that she needs, So the health and the wealth of the women inside of Framingham is at an all-time low. And I'm happy that she's home, but it's still sad, because there's still so many inside, and I know that she was there for so long. A lot of the women there are like family to her, so to just be out here in the real world living your life, she's thinking about these women. You know what I mean? She's out here with her physical family and her blood family, but, her mental family, her emotional family, a lot of that is still in Framingham, and those are the things that she really doesn't speak about. But, I'm 35 now, and I'm a mom, and, I have friends that I want to be closer to and can't be, and, just all the transgressions and the things that we deal with in life. But I'm happy that she's home. This journey has been very crazy, because my mom went away, I was 3.5, and I'm 35 now. I remember being like 8 or 9, on a van in the summer, going to visit her. There used to be a van that would pick us up and other kids. And I would always say, that little house right there, I'm going to live in. And I really felt that in my heart. Like, now that she's out, I want to still drive by. I haven't been to Framingham since July, and I don't, I don't want to go back, but I do want to see that house because I passed it so many times, and it was like so many dreams and things like at that corner. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm just going to grow up. I'm going to get a car. I'm going to get a job. Like, I was younger, so I didn't know what life had in store. I always thought my mom would be in jail forever. I did not know that she would come home. I remember, just growing up and, my mom's in jail. Some people I told, some people I didn't. It depended on, how I felt, the connection that we had. Everybody did not deserve to know that, and then what's interesting about me is my father was murdered, so I was a child at 4 years old with a mother that was in prison, life, and a father that had been murdered for life, so I didn't share that with everybody. I still don't share that with everybody. I didn't plan on sharing that tonight, but it's the truth. And I told you guys when I first signed on, I wrote notes, but I just planned on speaking from the heart because it all ties in. I remember at a time in my life, I was working in Sullivan Station. I had my daughter, life was moving on. Of course, my mom was there, but I got a phone call, and the phone call was from Stacy Borden. And she said, oh, actually, it was from my mom. She said, hey, I want you to reach out to my friend. She was here. She goes to this organization. It's in Roxbury. I want you to reach out to her. And I wasn't really planning on it because at that time I was older, and I said, it's been so many people to come out and say they were going to follow through and not follow through. Like, I'm not going to go calling this lady, who is she? I don't, you know what I mean? That type of thing. But I did. And I went to Warren Street, 100 Warren Street, and I met Mallory, and I met Families for Justice's Healing, and Sashi and Andrea and Katori. Sashi, I hope she's okay. We love Katori. And it literally changed our life. It literally changed our life. They had a table and they said, come sit down. What's going on? Is the case about you, your family member? What is it about? And I was like, my mom's in jail. She's serving life. Like, is there anything that everybody's telling me? There's nothing. And Mallory Hanara was like, no, like, we're going to get the next step. She had a whiteboard and, these markers. And like I said, they changed our life. They introduced clemency. They introduced the power of the people. They introduced just real life resources, even for what they've done for my life. It was just amazing. I came from working a position that was kind of dead end. And after volunteering with Families for Justice's Healing, they said, you know what, we're going to bring you on, with full time. We know you have a child. We're going to give you an income and make sure you're good. And they did that. And it's like I said, it's been a rocket ship ever since. And I'm so thankful because it led me into where I'm at now, which is New Beginnings. And the name is exactly what it is. I was nervous about my mom coming home. I was happy, but I was nervous because I don't know what it felt like to be with her. I don't really remember, me as a child being with my mother. So I was like, oh my God, when she comes home, what am I going to do? Where's she going to stay? And all these questions, I was very stressed out. And to know that she had a chance to come into a home was priceless to me because my grandmother raised me in a house, and so I remember the memories of being on the porch and in the backyard and, those type of things. And to walk into New Beginnings and see how it's laid out and what resources and, how somebody can wake up and go to sleep. It was like the key to what we needed, that family unification, So now that I'm employed here and I see the resources that we have for people, it's priceless. Things like taking my mom to her doctor's appointment. One time we were in the bathroom together and I said, Mom, we're right next to each other. Like, it was weird because that had never happened. You know what I mean? Never, ever. Like, I looked down and saw my sneakers, saw her sneakers, and it was crazy. So I was like, this is pretty awesome. You know what I mean? I had a chance to do some storytelling through my employment, where I was able to go back to being 7 years old and dig into how it really felt taking those rides out to Framingham with my siblings, having to walk through, the security detectors and the guards and all of that, and having to leave. My one memory that I hated was to look back and see my mother. I used to hate that. I used to hate to just turn around and see her sitting there and know that she had to stay, So just, we are advocating and providing services to women that are coming back into the community, big or small. Some of our women need help just obtaining their personal documents, their IDs. You never know how hard it is to get a birth certificate or your ID, the state of Massachusetts, the hoops they will make you jump through just to get your own personal documents. That's what we're helping our women, set up rides for, transportation back and forth to appointments. My mother told me, I'm nervous to go to a hospital by myself the first time. That's something that I got a chance to help her get back into, to make her comfortable. Our drama and art therapy is a big one to me. We did a V-Day monologue where we were at the library, and I was able to see her and some of my coworkers just up reading stories and speaking. And it just, just to be able to be free and feel supported is priceless. And I'm very thankful for you all allowing us to speak today on behalf of New Beginnings and on behalf of my mother and our story. Thank you. And I'll come back on camera. Did I cut out at all or no?
No, you were perfect, Shanita. It was
Awesome.
perfect. Let us see your beautiful face again. Wow, thank you. I just am so moved. I'm sort of sitting here a little bit speechless. Ms. Angie and Sheena really.
I cried a little. I had to take my glasses.
No, I know it's very, very powerful. And just for folks who aren't familiar with all these organizations, we'll drop the links in, but it's New Beginnings Reentry Services is the organization that Shanita was speaking about. And now I'm going to invite Sashi James to share with us about Families for Justice's healing and incredible work that she is seeing in this reimagining communities, which is right. If we had $50 million to actually do something good, what might that look like? And what is reimagining communities, and how does that connect to the No New Women's Prison? So Sashi, you're up.
So first I wanted to just say, I'm really excited. First, thank you for having us here and giving the space. I appreciate y'all all the time and the support that y'all always give us as a movement. And it's so beautiful to see it grow. And I'm always honored to be in space in solidarity with people. And I also just want to uplift Shanita and Miss Angie all the time, because even though Shanita, I know it feels so crazy, like when you were being outside in front of the state house, in front of the governor's house, doing those rides around Framingham. I remember that small house you were talking about, like saying how you wanted to buy that house, doing all of those solidarity actions and screaming like free Miss Angie, and then thinking about like, dang, Miss Angie is home, and like being on a call. Like I remember when we got on the whole call and it was like just a random like check-in, and we had like 100 people on the call saying free Miss Angie, and it wasn't even the right call. And it was just like to show like how much the power of the people is like really standing behind what different looks like, and how we're shifting public opinion to say like women and girls deserve so much better, and like people deserve so much better. humans deserve so much better, and we have the financial means to create what different looks like, especially when we're talking about building a $50 million women's prison, when we can be specifically investing that money into human lives to create what different looks like and support the foundation and get to the root of what healing really looks like. So I'm really excited, and I'm just so grateful to be here always with y'all, because it's just a really beautiful feeling to see what all of our work actually be in front of us. Like, this is like a surreal feeling of like, look at all of the work that's happening from across Massachusetts to say like Miss Angie is free. It took a lot of work. And, you know, I wanted to uplift the fact that when we were talking about clemency, like Miss Angie was denied clemency because she didn't have enough extraordinary programming. And when y'all introduced her in the beginning, yeah, her resume is longer than mine. I didn't even go to BU or graduate. And so, you know, I just wanted to uplift that in so many ways. And so I represent Families for Justice as Healing and the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. I'm the director of Reimagining Communities. And what that means is kind of touching based on exactly what Miss Angie was talking about, is like, what can we be doing different in communities that are over incarcerated and under resourced, instead of building a $50 million women's prison, and then even shooting for the stars, because we know that in Massachusetts there's a plan to spend $520 million on over the next 10 years on women, on prisons and jails as a whole. So how can we pause for a second and take that financial irresponsibility, fiscal irresponsibility, right? And funnel it directly to communities that would be impacted by incarceration. And so the National Council over the last few years has been doing a listening tour across the country and even in Massachusetts, learning why people end up incarcerated, what do people need, what can we have instead of prisons and jails? What makes people happy? What brings people joy? You know, how do you even respond to harm? And so we created an infrastructure, and we call it the Reimagining Communities infrastructure. And it's not our infrastructure. We really believe it's the people's infrastructure, because we believe that if we get the infrastructure running like a well-oiled machine, that's what my mom would say. If we got it running like a well-oiled machine, we could then pick it up and drop it in communities that are also over incarcerated and under-resourced. And so that includes transformative justice, participatory defense, participatory budgeting, liberation project, and the People's Assembly process. And then out of all of those beautiful components, here comes, and also not out of only those beautiful components, but also when you start to implement it in the communities, you start to like listen to the land. And in Massachusetts, we have a really beautiful opportunity, because our hyperlocal organizing is actually happening right here in Massachusetts, in Roxbury, where we've carved out 22 blocks where we're implementing all of those components that I mentioned. And so listening to the land, we learned that basic income is a real thing. People are struggling. People need money. And so we've provided basic income to women in that corridor and beyond. You know, we support women across Massachusetts and across the country with mutual aid, but really saturating the Roxbury community with mutual aid basic income that doesn't not only interfere with your housing, it doesn't interfere with your education. You know, I wanted to uplift that one of our sisters who is actually about to go to college, she got a grant, and when she got the grant, the housing was about to count it as an income, and they were about to not make her lose her housing just because she wanted to go to school. And so we were able to support her with that, so she didn't lose her housing. But we're talking about people who are trying to elevate out of poverty, and we're only knocking them back down. And so that's why basic income is so important. And then we have basic housing. When we did our listening tour, we learned that the number one reason why women in Massachusetts ended up incarcerated in the first place is because of lack of access to affordable housing. And this is a real deal, and 82% of those women are mothers. And so, you know, you talk about mothers. I'm a daughter of formerly incarcerated parents, and my parents, my Miss Angie, myself being a mother, we would do, and I'm sure there's moms on this call, you will do the most vulnerable to provide for your child. And if we're seeing that mothers and families and children don't have access to affordable housing, but yet we're spending $162,000 a year to incarcerate a woman because they don't have access to affordable housing, we should start to scale back and figure out what are we doing wrong. And so basic housing is a small pilot project that we started last year to really address housing, and from a grassroots perspective, that people are still allowed to advance and work and heal and get whatever they need from wherever they need to get it from. But also, how can we allow people to just like save their money? One of my favorite conversations with a community member I said, well, how is this basic housing going to impact you? And she said, well, I'm so excited because I'm going to go get my teeth done. And she was an elder, and she was like, I haven't been able to get teeth in my mouth. And I was just like, do you see, like, we're making people not have any teeth in their mouth because they need to have a roof over their head. And that's just like really insane, because we all need teeth. And so then my favorite project also that we have, that we are launching in the next couple of months, we have been, it is a hydroponic farm. And so this is my favorite process, just because I have never thought I was going to be a grower in my entire life. And here I am about to be a farmer in Roxbury. And so the beautiful process of that is that we actually had, because we're visionary people and we really believe in building the infrastructure and providing the tools that people need, so that way they don't cause further harm, and that way they have what they need, so that way they are living healthy, because we do believe that healthy, thriving people create healthy, thriving communities. And so we wanted to launch, we see in like Jamaica Plain, even, in Newton, communities that are not really in the most incarcerated corridor, they have farmers markets. And so we really wanted to have a farmers market on Humble Ave. But unfortunately, the vendors, they literally said that they did not want to come to Roxbury. They didn't feel safe. They said they wouldn't make enough money, and it just wasn't beneficial for them. And so us being like, I live right off Humble, and I'm like, well, I feel safe every day, so maybe I'll be the farmers market. And so we started to we partnered with a farm in Concord, and we bought boxes of vegetables, and Shanita, the sprinter, because I'll bring the sprinter everywhere. And so we filled up the sprinter with boxes of vegetables, and every Thursday we went on Humble, where we wanted to have the farmers market. And we just gave out free vegetables every day. And it was just every Thursday. It was a test trial to see how many people were excited about the vegetables, how many people wanted the vegetables. And by the end of the summer, on Thursday, people were screaming out the window, "Is that the vegetable lady?" And so it was a really beautiful process. And we had youth workers coming. Of course, Katori was outside giving out vegetables. And so it inspired us to purchase a hydroponic farm and bring one to Roxbury. And so when it's a whole process. You have to get the crops grown. I just learned that it takes, sorry, my dogs are arguing in the back. But it takes 90 days for vegetables to grow. For tomatoes to grow. I don't know about other stuff, but I'm still learning. And so the crops are being landed in May, but we'll be able to teach community members how to grow vegetables. We'll also be able to give free vegetables to community members. And then we'll eventually be able to hire a person to oversee the hydroponic farm as a project as well. And so that's just also addressing poverty, people not having stable jobs, also food justice. It's just such a beautiful, and then just learning how to be a farmer. Maybe somebody might want to have a hydroponic farm in their backyard. Who knows? But then last but not least, because I know we don't have much time, but one of the biggest projects that always comes up is that we know that people cause harm in our community. And we know that we have to address the harm in our community. And I don't always agree with the narrative that is what harm looks like in our community, because it's so, for the media to always shine light on the harm that is done in Black and brown communities, yet we make up such a small percentage of the country. I think that is very intentional. And we have to start to understand that harm happens in every community, not just our community. But we do have to heal the harm that is happening in our community and then also address it. And people also need to be held accountable for the harm that they do in our community and beyond. And so I'm really excited that in the next couple of months, we'll be sending our first cohort, my mom's always correcting me, cohort of women and community members to become trained to be paramedics and EMTs. So in Roxbury, we'll be launching our first EMT, I don't know what we're calling it yet, but we just got contracted with the paramedic team, but it's going to be the first crisis response paramedic team that is grassroots. Is going to be training community members to respond to community members, because we know when people respond to you and they look like you, they have the same experiences like you respond to them in a better manner and you get to a better place of healing and you are easily de-escalated. I mean, we always talk about building the village, and that's what building the village means. That really means that we're pausing, going back to the roots and figuring out how do we address each other and how do we support each other and how are we showing up for each other. So I'm really excited about that. It is a long-term process, but just saying that we have our first cohort of people up and coming is like just so beautiful, because in a couple of years, I'll be able to introduce that cohort and they'll be telling y'all like, look at what we're doing. And so, I'm going to pause there, but I do want to just say that I come to this work. I have an old dog and a young dog, and they just don't like each other too much. I'm so sorry. But I come to this work as a daughter of formerly incarcerated parents. And, you know, Shanita, I always said, my dad did 12 years, and my dad went to prison when I was 6 months. And as I got older, I always looked back and said, dang, if something happened to my dad, I would be so mad at the system because they took 12 years of my dad from me. And my dad is one of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my entire life. And my dad passed away in October. And so just thinking back and saying like, I lost 12 years of my dad because of situations that are not even criminalized today, you know, it's just insane. And I think that not one more child should lose time with their parents and with their family and with their loved ones, because the future is evolving and we need to figure out how we can keep families together, because family is what is important. Your roots are what is important, your lifeline, your love. And so I really always just go back to expressing how happy I am to see that experience of like y'all looking on the floor and saying, look at our shoes right next to each other, because that experience is really real. And, you know, unless you've gone through it, unless you've felt that separation, unless you felt that pain in your heart, you will never be able to understand. And so that's why it's important for people to listen and receive what we say, because these are real life emotions and we're coming from a real life experience. And so I'm going to pause there. Michaela, I know you had links. Do you want me to talk about the Free Her Institute just really quick?
Yeah,
okay, cool. So I'm really excited. I'm excited all the time. But I'm really happy that we are in the process. We inherited land in Martha's Vineyard. And when Miss Angie was talking about like creating what different looks like, and you know, it takes training for that to happen. And it takes a space that's safe for people to come together and do these trainings together and learn together. So we're not reinventing the wheel, or we're not like, you know, there in Chicago, there was a situation where they built a police academy. And because we're leading the prison and jail moratorium bill in Massachusetts, like we could have added language where they wouldn't have been able to build the police academy, and it could have been implemented in Chicago, and they would have been able to build housing because they built the police academy in the highest homeless population of Chicago in the area. And it was like a hotel for police. And then you have in Vermont, you know, there's a proposal to build 4 new mega prisons, and 2 of those are going to be women, and there's only 70 women incarcerated in Vermont. And so these are places where the moratorium bill could be not rewritten, but implemented and shared, and ideas can be shared, so that way communities that are over incarcerated and under-resourced, and I'm going to heavily emphasize on the under-resourced part, because when we walked across Massachusetts last year and we passed the prison and jail moratorium, we used a lot of our resources that we do not have to do that. And when Governor Baker vetoed that bill, it was just like throwing all of our resources out the window as if it didn't matter, even though the people spoke. And so I'm uplifting the Free Her Institute as an avenue, because we inherited land in Oaks Bluff on Martha's Vineyard, and we're planning to build, I'm not going to say planning or trying, I'm going to say we're going to build a training center. It's called the Free Her Institute, where we bring people from across, primarily women and girls, from across the country to learn, train, eat, woosah, be around water. I always say, follow skunks around, because that's what I saw the last time I went there. But but be in solidarity together. And the way that we're trying to the way that we're trying to build this infrastructure is by selling t-shirts. We do accept donations, but we really want people to purchase t-shirts, because it's a language, it's a conversation starter. And like, you're walking around and people are like, what's Free Her? And it's like, well, this is supporting a dope training center in Martha's Vineyard, and you should get one. And so I just wanted to share that link and just let y'all know that that's also up and coming. And thank you again for your time and listening to me.
Sashi, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So yeah, so we've dropped some links. Michaela dropped the Free Her Institute. Bonnie is dropping some links. I think what I'd like to do now is take about 5 or 10 minutes for Q&A from our speakers, and then I'm going to hand it over to Michaela to talk about the No New Women's Prison campaign, this moratorium that folks have been mentioning, and ways that we can get involved. So if you'd like to ask a question, either put it in the chat to me or to everyone, or if you can raise your little Zoom hand, and then I can call on you. And to do the Zoom hand, you go down to reactions and click on raise hand. So if anybody has a question, and again, I'm so moved. I'm taking it in between the pain that was shared and the inspiration that was shared and the incredible creative thinking. I'm feeling very full up right now. So I'm so deeply appreciative to our speakers. Any questions that people have after hearing all of these amazing women?
So I don't necessarily have a question. I just want to say that you are all amazing. And I am really glad that I was invited to come to this. I didn't know any of this existed. So just thank you for inviting us.
Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you for being with us. Any questions? Or Bonnie, yeah. So Bonnie, who I will say really put this program together, a member of Dorset Tzedek and staff at Prison Legal Services. Yes, Bonnie, question or comment.
I just really want to thank, I feel like we've asked a lot of you, sharing so much really deep stuff and emotional stuff with us tonight. And really want to appreciate your generosity. In terms of just kind of, questions and fleshing things out a bit more, Ms. Angie talked about just how the lack of medical care was destroying women's lives in Framingham. And I put a link in the chat to a report that Prisoners Legal Services, where I work, put out about just the trauma that happens in Framingham, and kind of, the idea that we could build a trauma-informed prison is kind of ludicrous, or it's an oxymoron. But I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of, I know just from my work, so many people, we incarcerate people who we don't need. People could be free today. Like, can you talk a little bit about who are we holding in jail? Who are these women that we're caging, you know, and because I think a lot of folks, you know, and don't have contact with that community.
Well, first I would like to say they are holding back mothers, grandmothers, aunts, cousins, sisters, nieces, you name it. They are holding them back. There's some women in there that didn't know that a situation was taking place, but they were there at the time. So because they were there, they're involved. They got time for it. They got 15, they got natural, whatever the case may be. There's some amazing women behind the wall. Women that will do any and everything to be able to just get out and be free for one day, if that's what it took. You know, so the people that, like I said, we're holding, not we, but the people that are back there, they're loved. They're people's loved ones, you know, regardless to if their family still speak to them, if they see their children or not, they still deserve a chance. They still deserve it. They're not animals. Society wants to say that people in prison are animals and they don't deserve to get out. You don't know the stories unless you experience it or unless you sit and talk with one of us. That's the only way you're gonna know. The lady that just came on, I don't know what her name is, but she said she never knew anything like that was going on. That right there blew my mind. It's this whole world and she didn't even know anything like that was happening. There's so much that a lot of men and women do not know that they need to start educating themselves on. And like I said, give me a call, email me, do what you have to do, because I can be your best teacher. And that's it.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Angie. Thank you. Yeah, Shanita, you want to add something? Yeah.
So I was thinking, like, I put something in the chat to my mom as she was speaking, because I know a lot of the times when we were talking on the phone, for instance, there was this one lady that she's close to, and she said, Shanita, she can do anything, you know, and I don't know, that just stuck with me because, you know, she's in prison and, you know, people are so quick to say she's wrong or she's offender, you know, she's bad, you know, but she's the sweetest. I'm sorry, it's a lot of noise out there, but she's the sweetest person. She still calls today and she'll run down everything, you know, what's going on with work, how's Chris I, you know, how's your mom, how's your brother, you know, and these women are people, you know, like we have a tendency to overcharge and overjudge people, like, but you know, like, that's not right. You know, everybody makes mistakes. People, you know, no one's perfect. And when she's calling and asking me those questions, I don't think about her crime or what she did bad or why she's in Framingham. I'm thankful that, you know, she's looking out for me. She's checking in with me. And so I try to do the same for her. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. A couple of questions that I'm going to hand it over to Michaela. So Paul Haddis, who is on a lot of healthcare activism, has the Healy administration, the new administration, expressed any interest in the issue of improving healthcare for incarcerated people? I don't know if any of you all have it.
Yeah, I could take that on.
Yeah, thanks.
So first I wanted to say that, you know, I also wanted to uplift the woman that's in Framingham who has dementia. I also want to uplift women that are in wheelchairs. You know, I want to uplift the aging population of women. And then I also want to like bridge the gap of like us separating incarcerated people from community members, because like it's the same thing. They're just locked in a cage and then we're just outside. But they're also rapidly deteriorating because of the conditions, because of the food. And so like people, I think that like one of the things that even like set with me when I like started to understand how harmful prison was, because when I saw my dad go to jail, he was young. When I saw my mom go to jail, she was like, you know, in good health. And so you maintain that visual of a person when they go to jail. But, 20, 30 years down the line, they're not that same young person that they were when they went to jail. And so we have literally lost that connection, and we think that they're just that same young person from 20, 30 years ago. And we're not realizing that a 50-year-old that's in prison right now is like likely in the 70-year-old, body form, just because of the conditions inside of a prison and jail. And I always use our matriarch, who's Phyllis Hardy, because she was incarcerated for, I believe, 28 years. And when she came home, she was wheeled out on an oxygen tank in a wheelchair. And had she not come home, she would have died inside of the prison, inside of Danbury. But she came home, and now she's like annoying. And I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but she always yells at us, and she's always, bossing us around. And, but that shows that people need to be in the community, and prisons are not only breaking women down by their conditions of their health, but their mental, and they're not getting the proper support that they need and deserve. And so going to the question of the Healy administration, we have all, because Baker was not great at granting clemency, and Governor Healy is a new governor. And so we have given her a list of women who we are recommending for clemency. And we are, trying to encourage her to do the right thing as a, first female governor, do the right thing, let's start to release some women and girls that are incarcerated in Framingham. And so we met with her last week, and well, not with her administration. And so we are hoping that there is a solution that comes out of that, and being very hopeful and positive, and just saying that we believe that Governor Healy can do the right thing because you're positioned to do the right thing. And when I say that you're positioned to do the right thing, I'm uplifting clemency as an avenue to release women and girls that are incarcerated, especially our elderly women, our long-timers, our survived and punished, our sick, our terminally ill. I mean, when we talk about women not getting treatment, we also have to talk about women are doing their time and then coming home and dying 6 months later. That is a problem. And that's because of the conditions inside, and that's because their health care is not being met. And we also have to understand, as a community that is on the outside, that's not on the inside, we also have an obligation to support the people that are on the inside, because people need to be held accountable for our women's health. When my mother was incarcerated, she still deserved to have adequate health care, because she was my mother, and she is my mother, and so did my father. And when we're stripping people away from having that access, we're also creating a condition in our head to where when we come home, I'm so happy that Miss Angie came home and said, you know what, I want to go straight to the doctor. Because most community members that have been incarcerated, they don't even care about the doctor. They're like, oh, I haven't gone to the doctor my whole time being incarcerated. I'll be all right. And that's not okay. And we have conditioned people to think that they shouldn't care about their health, and we need to care about their health. And so hopefully Governor Healy uses her clemency power, because we're going to be calling on her. And, we show up on governor's lawns and have picnics, and we will be there if she does not use her clemency power.
Ms. Angie, can I give you like 1 minute, and then I'm going to turn it over to Michaela to tell us about the campaign and how we can get involved?
Yes, I just want to say real quick, talking about health. Now they're trying to pass a bill where women can give up their organs and get a year off their sentence. Shame on them for even trying to do something like that. They're not getting the adequate care. Not only that, how dare you talk about me giving up my organ to someone and giving me a year off my sentence? What if you have natural life? What if you have 15 to life and the only chance you have is parole? Shame on the system. That's all I have to say.
Oh, I can't even speak after that. That's macabre. Yeah. So as you all have been hearing, for folks who are a little newer to the issue, a number of years ago, the Baker administration put out a call for designs for a new women's prison to replace MCI Framingham with about a $50 million was the original budget. And then this campaign was started by the National Council and Families for Justice is Healing to put a moratorium, a 5-year moratorium, during which the pause that Sashi spoke about, during which we could reimagine something else. What could we do with $50 million and all the other money that Sashi mentioned? That bill passed last year. It was vetoed by Governor Baker, so it is back on track. And Michaela's going to talk to us about what's happening and how we can, if those who are inspired tonight can get involved.
Awesome. Thank you, Tova. And thank you to the speakers. I feel like I'm, really, really struck and feeling a lot, but mostly a lot of gratitude for all of you. I'm emotional. But yeah, I'm really honored to be here. It's great to see so many people showing up. I know a lot of you are in Dorsey Aesthetic, a lot of you are in the larger sort of Jewish ecosystem that Trua reached out to, and and I just want to like put a word out to the people power that has been cultivated around the existing campaign to pass the prison moratorium. As Toba said, this is a 5-year pause on new prison and jail construction, and although there's that's like the forefront legislative focus, the idea behind that prison moratorium is the No New Women's Prison campaign is making time to reimagine communities, as we've heard about tonight. So those things are intricately connected. There's been an incredible amount of people power harvested behind this campaign, and it's really like unheard of for a piece of legislation to go all the way through the State House and get passed in one session. And that happened last year because of the powerful organizing happening. So it's really like kind of an incredible opportunity for our communities to be able to plug into something like this. And I've been really inspired by, seeing this kind of grow. And honestly, so I grew up outside of outside of Boston in the Jewish community. We were right by this like huge prison, and literally it was never mentioned. We never took a stand. So for me, seeing Jewish communities step up into this has been incredibly meaningful. And so I really appreciate all of you for being part of this from the bottom of my heart. And on that, there is something kind of special coming up right after Passover. There's going to be a Jewish community canvas specifically for this campaign. It's going to be co-sponsored by Trua, by Boston Workers Circle, by Kavod. It's going to be in the Brookline or Newton area. We haven't decided exactly yet, trying to figure out some ideal targets, but also with the hope that we will be talking to members of our own community around the issues related to what we heard tonight, what community investment looks like, and also using the opportunity to form community, to work with our own community to get better at talking about these issues. I know it's new for a lot of people. So I'm going to put a link in the chat specifically for this canvas on April 16th on a Sunday. Would love for you all to open that link right now so you can sign up either right now or right after this. Also want to, move us into taking a little bit of action right now. I know we've just had a lot of information and there's a lot of emotional content, but I want folks to kind of be able to channel that into doing something right now. And so there are 2 things you can do in this moment. The first is taking that Canvas link I just shared and sending it to 3 people in your community who you think would be interested, or even better if some of you know a community member who's part of an organization that could show up. But just that's one of your action possibilities. And the other possibility, and this is a link that I also just good to open, putting it in the chat. This is a script for calling elected officials. And if we call right now, it's actually for those who are phone shy, it's a good time to call because you won't talk to anyone. You'll get to leave a message. there's a list of numbers at the top, and those are the committee chairs. So right now the legislation is in committee. There's a House version and a Senate version. They're in different committees. And the committee chairs, who are state senators and state representatives, have a lot of power about getting that legislation through the committee and not weakening the language. We want the language that is filed to get through without it being weakened. And so I'm gonna give, how do we feel on time? Yeah, I think we could do 3 minutes, 4 minutes right now to either do those 3 texts or making those calls. You can pick one of those committee chairs right now. Everyone, pick someone random in that list. Hopefully they all get a call. And there's a script you can read. You can just literally read the script, adding your name and making that call. This is could be a growth moment if you've never called an elected before. But again, just an answering machine. So low stakes, or texting 3 people right now that Canvas link. And I will just say at the bottom of that mass moratorium guide link, the script, there's also a way for you to look up your own electeds and call them. And I would love for folks to commit to doing that, later this week or after the call, looking up who your electeds are and calling them and asking them to support, because regardless, there's a long, complicated legislative path, but everyone matters in the legislature, even if they're not in the committee. So expressing support is a very powerful thing you can do.